I've actually tried it.
Have you got the allergy again?
No,
Have you?
no, I'm feeling 100%, but I still have a little bit of a, a little bit of a cough. I've been talking all day. I had a 3/4 tour and a half day tour today. I'm
Mm.
not that long in the door actually, and yeah, I've been talking all day, and I was trying to do a trying to do a pub tour in the Cathedral Quarter on a Saturday night. Not, not a good idea. People that were on it were lovely, but yeah, just bummed, absolutely thrown.
I was I was watching my friend make a rabbit hutch. Exciting day today.
You weren't engaged
Exci-
in manual labour yourself.
eh, eh, no, no, exciting day. I just was watching him. I was just watching him. Good evening. Hello, everyone. Thomas Jones says hello. Hello
Aye,
to you.
hello, hello, hello.
And yeah, uh, good night tonight. Actually, I could have sworn it was light last week when we started, but it seems dark tonight when we're starting. I don't know. Julie Mason saying hello, evening
Well,
all to you.
I'm just thinking maybe a lot of people are watching the Eurovision Song Contest. It's on there just.
Instead, instead, yes, yes.
I see Bailey's. Bailey's is sponsoring the Eurovision Song Contest. It's the official drink of the Eurovision Song Contest. You know why I think that is? Because Terry Wogan used to host that, and he always said that he thought, right, I'm not drinking this year. I'm not. And then he says by the time he got to about the fourth song, he's like, right, that's enough. That's enough. Get the booze out. It's never been the same without him. He was hilarious.
No,
Hilarious.
they're trying too hard to be funny, and it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
No, but he was just naturally hilariously funny. It was brilliant whenever he did it. He just took the absolute piss out of it, which is exactly what it should be for.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So this week, Justin, we're doing something a little bit different because I tried a whiskey the other day, the new Furcullen.
Yes, big fanfare when it launched.
Yeah, it's quite tasty stuff, but it's very young, and a lot of time people use these terms. I'm not really sure what they mean. So what I've got. This is a very young whiskey, brand new, modern distillery, blah blah blah. But I've got loads of old stuff here, old stuff that old bottles from way back when, and some stuff that is aged. I picked this up, 21-year-old Redbreast there, the old bottling, because I wanted to do a taste comparison because it's just funny because people talk about things being old and then they talk about mature whiskies and stuff, and what is the difference? What makes the difference? But anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Who knows? A lot of people could be out watching the Northwest 200 tonight. I was going to seek permission to ask to play a bit of my friend who sent another friend a message saying, "I don't know where I am. I'm in a ditch. I don't know where I am. I'm in a ditch. My brother's watching me being sick. I'm in a ditch." And it was rather hilarious. But then I didn't get permission to play it, so I can't play it. But you get the idea.
Aye.
You get the idea.
No,
yeah.
Aye. It's I know. I'm going to put myself one of these for Collins. No, I think everything went pretty well today up at the Northwest.
Yeah, nice weather for it. Nice weather.
Oh, it was beautiful down at the coast. I was at the Giant's Causeway today. It was beautiful.
Is that the first warm day of the year? Is it?
I think
one or two warm days. But it's still cold at night when you go out. Still very, very cold at night.
I'm not going out at night anymore. I'm a home bird. I don't go anywhere.
All right. Okay. Right.
Lovely. Well, we'll do a wee bit of news first. Do a little bit of news first. Washington State University over in the US of A. Well, they've unveiled just how much water is perfect in a whiskey. Okay. It's good to see that they still haven't found the cure for cancer, but they're busy working on figuring out how much water you should put in a whiskey. Now, I'm going to read this off because I hadn't really time to write some stuff down. Researchers chemically analysed how volatile compounds in a set of 25 whiskies responded to the addition of water. And we set up a tasting panel. And basically what they found was that if you add 20% water to your whiskey, that basically it all starts to taste the same. Now,
That's an awful lot, Marty. That's an awful lot.
well, all I will say is this, right? If you're going to add, this is whiskey's at 40%, as far as I remember. Just have to check. Now, if it's a real high cask strength, setting up at like 65%, like some of our good friends at the Silky stuff is, well, surely it could probably take 20% easy enough, because you're basically bringing it down into the sort of mid 40s, thereabouts. I
Okay.
don't really understand this. What they basically say is that the panelists could whenever it's 100% whiskey, the panelists could easily tell all the whiskies apart from each other. At 80-20 whiskey to water, they could still differentiate whiskies within each group, but after more water was added, that changed. And they go on to talk about mix of compounds, hydrophilic, hydrophobic, blah, 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 blah. It's interesting enough, but I mean, there's some whiskies we know can take a bit of water. Other ones not really.
Is it not normally cask strength ones that you're supposed to add water to, so that they aren't that high in alcohol that you just get that burny feeling straight away and can't appreciate the mouth feelings?
Well, no. Well, the idea of cask strength whiskies is certainly at a certain ABV is that you put the water in it yourself and find out where that sort of sweet spot is for you. But surely everybody knows that if you put too much water in something, it's going to taste pretty much the same. It's going to taste too boring. They didn't necessarily have to spend a whole academic year on this or whatever it was, It just seems a very strange piece of literature.
I know where they're getting at. At 20%, they're all going to taste the same. It's just going to taste water, but the flavor will go surely at a point.
Yeah,
when the water gets to a certain level.
Well, one of the things I would have to say, if you're putting ice in a drink, I always think you'd never really have that much control over what it is you're drinking when you put ice in it. It's always melting, and once it melts beyond a certain point, you don't really taste anything. You can't really taste very much.
Well, listen, we'll put it out there. How much water do you add to your whiskey, if any?
No.
Do you like ice? Do you like water? Put that out there. How much water do you add to a whiskey?
Yeah, well, let us know, because I'm genuinely interested. That you don't. Each whiskey's kind of different. Each day you drink it, it's a little bit different. So above 20%, I don't know. I think it's a bit silly proposition. I mean, if something's sitting at 60% ABV, and you pour yourself, nice healthy 50 ml measure, and you put in 10 ml of water, that ain't going to make it taste like some generic thing. I don't think that's the most well-researched piece of paper or piece of literature I've ever read in my life, if I'm honest.
Well, was the report actually there, or was it just a PR article? Because maybe the PR article is synthesizing it down.
Well, to be fair, that's it. The news from Washington State University. It's not a news article by a paper. Working with Elizabeth Tomasino of Oregon State University, who ran the sensitivity panel.
Yeah. There you go. That's as big as I can make it now, folks. They control it more than I do. That's why I can do a show and be in it at the same time. But that's as big as I can make the page there. So you're going to have to follow the link. Let me see what people are saying, Marty. Listen, here's what they're saying. Rush Bishop saying, put a chilling. A whiskey is like ice cold beer, no flavors left.
I would have to agree with Russ. Some whiskeys, a little teaspoon or half a teaspoon of water really, really helps it. But once you start adding ice into it and stuff, it just doesn't really work for me at all.
Yeah, Peter Stewart, Thomas Jones, he agrees with you. He says on cast strength with a teaspoonful of water is all he adds.
Yeah.
Peter Stewart said, "Where the hell did the water come from? A well? No, that's Lassie. Water that flowed over chalk or basalt. Do you filter water, tap water with chlorine, etc.? Listen, I try to filter it, but keeping up with those filters, they only last a month. I make them last 3 months. They go black and moldy, and then where are you? I don't know. Tap water around here is pretty good, but I don't like chlorine at all.
I bought strips to test my water. The reason being, guy that lives around here said, "Well, we've got lead pipes that take the water in." Sorry, what? He said, "Oh, these old houses, they wanted it all replaced and lead in the lead pipes." I was like, "What the fuck?" Pardon my French. I was like, "What?" So I bought strips to test my water, and my water is exactly the same constituency as spring water that you buy in the shop. So the water that comes out of my tap is as good as them. There's no lead in it at all.
Well, I know that, but if you let it run, there's no lead. If you let it sit in lead pipes,
No,
there's
but it's
lead.
not.
You have to let. There's
It's
no
not
lead.
no lead in it. So
Okay, good. That's why they invented. Why they invented lager. No layer flavor, ice cold. Listen, I like drinks cold. Linda Cox says
like,
no ice.
but I like drinks cold as well on a hot day. But the thing is, it does detract from the flavour, and it's why anyone who's drinking ice cold Guinness, oh my god, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Ice cold Guinness.
I like it ice cold. I had one
You
tonight.
would.
I had one tonight, and it came from the drawer freezer out in the garage, and it was beautiful.
Mm.
It was a warm, sunny day before it got cold. Rush Bishop saying is you can add water, you can't take it back out. True.
Well, that's it. A little bit, add a little bit. And I've tasted whiskies where you can add loads of water to them. The one that really springs to mind is the Cologne Ciccolina one. I think you really have to add a huge amount of water of it to get it to taste where it needs to be because it's so high in alcohol. Once you add the water to it, it brings it down, it opens up, it's really nice. But that's a kind of special, a sort of one of a kind. You don't need to put a huge amount of water in anything. But
Linda Cox, view from the ladies. Taste first, add a wee bit of water if necessary.
absolutely, Linda.
An SQ 40%. There's enough water in it.
Now,
I like your thinking.
In the main, I think you're probably right. Yeah. So anyway, there's the university, Washington State University, telling us what we all kind of knew. Anyway, still no cure for cancer, kids.
Peter Stewart saying, I almost never add water and warm it in my hand. There you go. Last word from oh no, I was going to say last word, but Frank Hearns got in touch. He says, no hard and fast rule dependent each individual whiskey.
That's it.
Probably.
That's it. I think it stands to the sense if you put enough water in any of it, you'll not be able to tell the difference between them. That's essentially the conclusion. The rocket science. These are the people on which the world is based. Anyway, I thought it was a bit of a silly bit of research. Now, next up, data from an app called Union. They've done what it is. It's a point of sale app that gives ideas on facts about sales. And what they've found is that the most ordered whiskey in bars in America is Jameson. Now,
right, okay,
and it also has the strongest retention of any whiskey brand of 48%. So basically means that half the people that order Jameson just order Jameson. Now, Irish whiskey had a 65% retention, but American whiskey had a 74% retention. Now, what's that telling you? That means that people who are drinking whiskey, if it's American whiskey, there's only one of three of them ever drink anything else, really. Irish whiskey, 65% retention, which is still quite high. People don't tend to stray too much from that. When in the US, when people strayed from drinking whiskey, they drank vodka 22% of the time and tequila 15%. I thought that was quite interesting that people went from the brown spirits to a white spirit. Kind of you naturally think that someone's going to, if someone's not drinking whiskey, they're going to go maybe over to a rum or another brown spirit, but it doesn't. That's not what the data is telling us here.
Well, you always slag me off for mixing my drinks, don't you?
Yeah, well, I do you up to a point. It's not necessarily that you mix the drinks. It's that you mix them all in one glass and put a wee umbrella and a strawberry and a little cherry on the side. Your wee umbrella. No, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a different drink. I do it all the time. But I just found that was quite interesting that people who drink American whiskey tend to be really loyal to it. Irish whiskey really high too. But when they do, they switch over primarily to a vodka.
There you go. I do like a tequila.
Well, I've tried a couple of, whenever I was over in El Paso, I tried a couple of the higher end stuff. And it's really quite good. Really quite good. But why wouldn't it be? You know, it's well crafted, well made, and some of it's aged a bit as well. So yeah.
Right. Lovely stuff.
Yeah,
Where are we heading next now?
Now, next is by the way, President Putin. Remember last week we were talking about Jameson being sold in the States or being sold in Russia. And people, they were getting a lot of stick about this, and rightly so. I think rightly so. Well, do you remember they said, it's going to be very difficult to ban it, very hard. We don't know. Well, they managed to ban it this week. What a surprise. Poor old Vladimir will not be able to get his hands. Well, he will be able to get his hands on Jameson.
He'll go by the black channels. Look at that there. He's gritting his fist as if it's a real problem.
Well, the only thing is, he'd probably have to go back to drinking his mate Conor McGregor's Proper 12, which is probably reason enough for him to start crying a bit, you know. But yeah. So yeah, Jameson. It's very difficult. We don't know how we're going to stop selling it. We don't know. Oh, we managed to do it. There we go. That was that sort of. Anyway, just nuts. But staying in Russia, Russian police released a clip this week where they went to a warehouse in Belomut, wherever that is in Russia. It's a big place. And the warehouse was making fake whiskey. It was making fake bottles of Johnny Walker. It says there's other stuff was being made as well. Now, to be honest, that looks pretty good labels. But they had 2 tons of this stuff, fake whiskies. And I think the thing about it is, Diageo have stopped supplying Russia. Pernod Ricard have now stopped. Edrington, Chivas Brothers, etc., are all stopping supplying Russia. And this is what's going to happen.
Well, listen. This is prohibition again 100 years later.
Exactly the same.
Perhaps Jameson should supply it, and then it could corner the market, and Russians would get a taste for it. And then, of course, when they were all dead, they could all drink it.
Well, the Russian market is being dried up, and they were buying 40 million plus bottles a year for certain brands.
Yeah,
now,
Brazil, Russia, India, and China were all the rage for whiskey, weren't they?
Yeah, well, they're all growing up, but I think there's probably whiskey is becoming more and more expensive, and obviously the higher end stuff is where the faking is going to take place. But I think as the prices start to go up, you're going to start seeing more of this over here too. People just making stuff and bottling it. Because let's be honest, whiskey's getting to a point where it's getting ridiculously expensive. Lots of people are charging really silly money for mediocre product at best. And some of the high-end stuff that have come out, not looking at anyone in particular here, Bushmills, but a 30-year-old whiskey for £2,000 a bottle, of which it's their core range, it's just nuts. It's nuts. But there you go. But they busted this. But as I say, 2 tons of this stuff, and they said it was hazardous to health. So
it wasn't even like a good copy. It was like,
So basically, if you don't know where the stuff's coming from, don't drink it. Remember, you're putting this stuff into your body. So unless it's coming from a reputable source, but
Is that actually an official police confiscation photograph of all the stuff there? Is it?
Yeah. It came off of a short video clip that they brought me.
My God.
But I mean, you're going to start seeing more and more of this. And I mean, if they're doing it over there, they can feed it over here. I mean, let's be honest. So yeah, something to be wary of.
Incredible.
Yeah,
absolutely incredible.
All this. Remember, you're always going to be ingesting this, so you don't want that. Now,
nearly as bad as your tap water.
My tap water is, I should bottle it like Del Boy and sell it as the Peckham
Rye.
Peckham Spring. Now, competition time. Couple of competitions. Boan are giving away tickets to Whiskey Live in Dublin, which is taking place on the 19th and 20th of this month. There's a Facebook.
Here's the link.
Jump on there, and all you have to do is win 2 tickets. Is Whiskey Live Dublin. Countdown zone, blah blah blah. To enter, make sure you're following Boan Distillery. Tag a friend in the comments below. Share this post for an extra chance to win, and you can get your be off to Whiskey Live. Now, I'm not going. To be honest with you, I don't know that many people actually is.
But worth a look, worth a punt.
Indeed. Yes, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Now that's for the guys over here. If you happen to be in the States, I thought this was a pretty nice price. The Laws Whiskey House is offering someone to become the distiller for a day. Enter for a chance to win an all expenses paid trip to be distiller of the day. Now, it is all expenses paid. It's pretty cool. If you click on the T's and C's, you have to be in the States to do this. And I say, where did I see this? Eligibility. Open to legal residents of the United States and DC, excluding Rhode Island. Why would that be, Justin? Why are they discriminating against poor little Rhode Island?
Well, it's like Gujarat in India. Whiskey's illegal in Gujarat in India, so Rhode Island probably has a no competition rule or something like that there. But I'll check it out. Rhode Island's a stop out state. They're a very small state. They're stop out. They're like the equivalent of the Isle of Man. They do their own thing, or the Channel Islands. They do their own thing quite a lot.
Well, the price is economy class airfare for 2 people to Denver, Colorado, to the value of $1,200. 2 nights in a hotel stay in Denver, Colorado. Meals for 2 for the duration, entertainment and tours for 2 people, prepaid Amex gift cards, a couple $100, private tour of the Laws Distillery, select your Laws Whiskey House gear, blah blah blah. So it's actually really pretty good, pretty cool little price. So if you're in the States, well worth entering that for a chance to go. So good on them. That looks like a pretty decent price.
Couple of good competitions there, and remember, if your wife doesn't want to go, I'm available.
What a treat that would be. Get to see Justin in the Versace wife fronts. Excellent.
Boy.
Now, I saw this article the other day, ABC News, and it's a thing about Indian whiskey consumption has went up by 200% in the past decade, with India overtaking France to become the world's largest buyer of whiskey by volume, staggering 1.5 billion litres. It's actually quite a nice article. It goes through and sort of tells you why and how and thing. But yeah, again, we just know that India is just sitting there. If people can get access to it to sell their product, it'll be massive. Now, you've been doing a lot of work with the Indians. How's that been going on?
Lovely.
Are they still as punctual as ever? Always on time?
Absolutely. Let me see. Where's that article? We see short and stream. There we go. Solo on. There we go.
Yep.
Yes. No. I mean, but their homegrown stuff outranks everybody by a country mile, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I mean, technically, it wouldn't be classified as whiskey over here. It wouldn't meet the criteria because a lot of it's made with bits and pieces of molasses, and some of it's made by blending other spirits, blending with other whiskey from other places and stuff. But the thing about it is, we all know that if they can get access to it at a reasonable price, the Indian whiskey market, in terms of exports from Ireland, Scotland, etc., it's just sitting there waiting to explode.
There you go. There you go. Connor, much of it isn't even whiskey agrees
No,
with you.
much it isn't what we would classify as whiskey over here, but they do
Some of
sell
it's nice. Some of it's nice.
huge. Oh, well, Amrit. I have a couple of bottles of Amrit, and Paul John have tried a couple of bottles of it. It's pretty
I would imagine that Himalayan Ginglali stuff must cut the chase because he seems to be doing quite well.
Yeah. But
You know?
that's what I say. A lot of these distilleries that probably not making very good stuff. Some of them be pretty much gut rot. But I did try Indian whiskey in the Whiskey House in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I have to say that Officer's Choice. It's not brilliant by any stretch of the imagination, but it's easy, very easy to drink, and all it is really is for putting something in. But then lots of blended Scotches and blended Irish whiskies. That's all they're really for.
Mm-hmm. Thomas Jones says, "I think I'll take the wife."
Choice, Thomas. Well done, Thomas.
Mark Kerr says, "He'll have the Amrit." I like the Amrit. There you go.
Yeah,
very good.
Very decent stuff. But yeah, that is pretty much all the news for the week this week.
Hold on. Even the premium stuff is peanut oil. Peanut oil, is it?
No. I had a Paul John Pettit a while back, and I thought.
Does he mean palm oil or peanut oil?
I would say he must know it. I think Connor probably knows peanut oil. But yeah, no, I haven't get that at all. I think most of the Indian stuff I've tried has been pretty good. Can't hear you.
It's a dodgy clicker on my mouse. We're halfway through the show already, and the residue on the top of chunky peanut butter is peanut butter oil. They must make whiskey with it. Hey, hold on a minute here. I'm thinking here, if they make whiskey with it, right? Why is there all the furore whenever they actually make peanut flavored whiskey?
That's the
it's a different thing.
They're not making whiskey with the residue of peanut butter, you lunatic. What he's saying is that's what it reminds him of. He gets that sort of oily peanuttiness. You're talking about flavored whiskies, which invariably are all pretty much dire. Because
except Peach Crown Royal.
Peach Crown Royal is actually all right. If they just need
like that
sort of tone it down a fair whack. But no, if you like that kind of thing. But no,
there you go. That's it, Marty. Now we're singing from the same hymn sheet. There you go. We're in Westminster Abbey as we speak.
Yeah, but I mean the thing is, if that's a note he's picking up, well, it's not one that I would pick up now, Connor. To be honest, I think it's pretty good stuff. I'm probably just going to keep getting better and better, if I'm honest. But yeah,
when are we going to get to talk to one of these?
Sort of was in talks with one of these guys a couple of weeks ago when about getting them on, and I just sort of fell through because I called up to go to work and whatnot.
There you go. Hold on. Sean McClanahan saying something. I'm just back from the US. I was able to try some Irish whiskies we can't get in Canada. The Napo Castle 12 was very nice.
Yeah, I have a bottle of Napo Castle 12 sitting in there. It's pretty good stuff. Yeah. The Napo Castle is one of those ones. It's kind of sort of quietly does its thing in the background. It's not one of the sort of hip and trendy brands.
Do you know why? It sounds like the sort of whiskey a train spotter would buy. But the trains a spot are called sort of like Carrick Castle, Windsor Castle, Powys Castle. You know.
But yeah, it's a very good whiskey that nobody ever really talks about because it's sourced and always has been sourced. But I think it's perfectly reasonable, reasonably good stuff. As I say, I have 2 bottles in. I know I can see 1 bottle from here, but yeah, Napple Castle, pretty good. Now, what I
Great
wanted,
stuff.
that's basically the news for this week. What I want to talk about a little bit tonight, and guys, let me know your opinion on this, because I bought a bottle of this new for Cullen, and this is their, it's fully theirs. The full Cullen is the first release from Parscourt Distillery, 100% distilled on site, locally sourced barley and pure Wicklow mountain water, expertly distilled to produce an extraordinary whiskey with notes of citrus, green fruit, and sweet malt. And I have to say, it's 46%. Nice wee sort of textured label, 6,000 bottles of it. And it's reasonably tasty. It's okay, but it's very new. I think it's 4 years old, if I'm correct. So we hear this about whiskies, and people say, "Oh, it's very young." Well, what do they mean? Because all whiskey, as we know, has to be minimum 3 years old. But people talk about whiskey being young versus whiskey being old, and so on and so forth. Well, this is, it's quite tasty, but it is very young. And what it means is it's kind of lively. It's a little bit fruity, and it's like a little puppy. That's the way, probably a good way of doing it. It's like a little puppy sort of jumping at your ankles. It's okay, and it's not annoying. It's kind of cute, but it's not really going to be the end product. Let's be honest. When people talk about whiskey being young, it sort of hints at something else. It hints that it's going to be better. It's going to be toned down, have a bit more roundedness to it, a bit more body to it. And that's kind of what a whiskey being young really implies that it's lacking something. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be, because a young whiskey is a young whiskey and it can be tasty enough. But you just sort of think to yourself, well, it can be improved, it can be bettered.
There's Connor saying it has a few edges that need to be rounded out. So what do you make of that?
But that's pretty much exactly what I'm saying. When people talk, the reason I'm picking this, I'm not picking on for Cullen to be critical of it or whatever. But what I'm saying is, it's kind of lacking the balance that you get from something with a bit of age. It's lacking that body you get with something with a bit of age, and it's certainly lacking a number of tasting notes. Now, what I will pick up here is something with a little bit of age to it. Nothing, not an
Before
extreme.
you move on, Marty, SQ's saying, where did you pick it up, and how much did you pick that for curling up for?
And where did I get that? Did I get it off their website, or was it Irish Malts or something? The Celtic Whiskey Shop, and it was it €50 a bottle?
That's decent.
That's decent. It's reasonable enough. Yeah, I think it's in and around that. It was a Celtic Whiskey Shop I bought it from.
Yeah. There you go.
I think it was
€55.
55
quid.
55.
€55 would be 50 quid. Yeah,
thereabouts. Yeah, and I mean, for a first release, I'm glad that they've done this, where release it, big volume, no shortage of it, get it out there at a reasonable price, etc. Because I mean, we all do kind of think. I personally don't mind if someone has a limited first release as a sort of collectible. That's perfectly legitimate in my opinion. But I do like it whenever people say, right, here's our spirit. There you go. Go and run with it and see what you think. Quite tasty. And not too bad at all, to be honest. But the point I'm going to try and make.
There's a point he's making. It's the same price as the Dinger Core Malt, which most people would say is something better.
Would they? Possibly. But that's personal preference. That's neither here nor there, in my opinion. They're releasing something at that price these days is pretty much what people are kind of expecting to pay. But yeah, it's a reasonable price. But if this is where Irish whiskey is going to set itself in that sort of slightly more expensive entry level, well, you can see where they could run in there's going to run into certain problems with that because
Connor's saying they're different spirits. You're not comparing like with like, you know.
yeah, well, they're different distilleries. They're different.
Yeah.
They're different products, you know. But
Brian O'Driscoll, a director of that for Cullen Company. I think your guy from the Irish American Fund, isn't he? He's something to do with it as well. Yeah,
I can't remember. I can't remember, to be honest. But I want to take something with a little bit of age to it, because there's certain notes start to appear with whiskey when it's at a certain age. Now, I know these are totally different whiskies, but this is a Mortlach, a 15. When you take something that has a little bit of age to it, or a bit of age to it, you pour it out. Now, the first thing you notice is there's certain notes that appear in a whiskey when it goes beyond a certain age that you just cannot get in young whiskey. And that's what I'm trying to get across about young whiskey versus stuff with a bit of maturity. It's not that the young whiskey's bad. It's just that there's certain notes that it can't get it. And as they get a bit older, there's a sort of earthiness to whiskies with a certain age. And they take on that kind of earthy, balanced sort of base notes, which I really like. I think most people like them. They get that drawn down sort of deeper notes and that range of flavors on the palate. There's a wee fly floating about here doing my head. But yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just my mouse cursor doing like that across the screen.
Yeah, exactly. Connor's saying there, young whiskey is not as complicated, and that's not a fault of it. And neither exactly the point I'm trying to make. When we say young, if you're comparing young with aged whiskies, it's almost as if the young whiskey's lacking something, but it's just the nature of that spirit. As you move on with a bit of age, you get a little bit more oils into it. You get a little bit more earthy notes to it. You get a little bit more that earthiness is really what I'm trying to get at, and that is what I mean by something being it's very young. It really could do with a bit of age, and that rounds it out and pulls all those sort of bouncy, sharp flavors and light, fruity flavors, and pulls them down in. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Mortlach, if I'm totally honest.
There you go. Declan Boyle is saying those tasting glasses are great. Have you ordered hundreds of them? Are they your hundreds that you've ordered? Are they?
No, the hundreds are sitting with a friend that got them the other day. Because that's for the whiskey tasting in Ballyclare. Less than 2 weeks.
How's it going for that? Is it sold out?
I don't know. I've been busy all week. I haven't,
because it's unbelievably cheap, isn't it? It's like £12.50 or something.
£12.50 for 4 whiskies, guided tasting, and some music. It's kind of hard to beat, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, that's 2 weeks past yesterday. So yeah, that's coming. So the other thing I want to pick up on is in terms of age. Talking about age in a cask, I've always said this, that whiskey from a certain period years ago that you keep, and what I mean by that is whiskies that are from sort of the 1980s and earlier, they've kind of got notes in them that you don't get any other place. And I'm not 100% sure that it's not in some way down to oxidization. The likes of that Crested 10, that's a bottle from, if memory serves, I think that's from the 70s. Bottle of Black Bush from the 80s, 90s. Bottle of Jim Beam's Choice, that's from the 1970s as far as I remember. And you kind of get these earthy notes. And I'm not 100% sure if it's a case of, was that exactly the way it tasted 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever years ago? Or has it oxidized a bit in the bottle. And if
Because
that's the case,
we have done that show comparing old and new, but that's not the old and new you mean in this one.
no.
We did is a product today the same as a product
Mm.
years ago, and the answer was definitely no. We all thought they got sweeter, but this is a different thing you're talking
But this
about.
is a different thing that I'm talking about. It's this idea of age. Does a 10-year-old whiskey that was distilled 20 years ago, does it actually change in the bottle? And I'm beginning to think there probably is a little bit more of that. And the note that you kind of pick up a bit more of is that earthiness. And there's another note that appears out. It comes, um, it's a sort of French term. A lot of this stuff is French terms. It's called rancio, and it's a note that's like rancid butter, and that sounds really bad, but it's not. It's something that a lot of cognac producers really are trying to get. It's that sort of earthiness, richness that you can only really get with a certain period of age. It's sort of, I'm led to believe that it comes from oxidization. And I think these whiskies, as they sit in bottles for a period of time, the oxygen does play its part. And they do become really something a little bit special. It's kind of why I like these old bottlings so much. And you can pick these up for next to nothing. I mean, genuinely cheap. I mean, a bottle of old Bushmills. I really hate to sort of finish that one. A bottle of old Bushmills from Blackbush from 30 odd years ago. I mean, you pick it up for like £30. It's for nothing. When you bring it out, now I'm not necessarily saying that this is better than the modern day product, but it's different, and that's kind of what you're looking for. I mean, that doesn't have the notes of modern Bushmills. It just doesn't. Blackbush. And there it is. There is that earthy note that I think you only really are getting from stuff like this.
Leather? Would you say leather?
It does have leathery notes, yeah, but it's just that earthy sort of deep pulled down back into the sort of the pits of hell type of note. It's fabulous. It's really, really good, and I can't recommend enough picking up those bottles because they're really not. Some of them aren't that expensive, and you do get different notes in it, and that's really what a lot of the time we're looking for. This sort of difference in what we come to expect in modern whiskey.
Well, 15 minutes left tonight. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, Telegram, and Rumble. You can ask Alexa, you can ask Google to play it, podcast, audio, and video version. We're questions are coming in tonight. We sort of threw it out there earlier on. Do we have time to answer some questions? Peter Stewart said, apparently this year's Redbreast Dreamcast is due for release. What's your opinion on it?
Let's be honest, the vast majority of this stuff never ever going to be drunk. I've tried a couple of the Redbreast Dreamcasts. I have a few bottles of Dreamcast. It's just everybody loses their shit over the top of this stuff. I mean, the new 2023 Middleton, very rare. I mean, who could be bothered with it anymore? Running around, people fighting over, they're bringing this one, and people phoning.
It's like Asda on Black Friday.
I just couldn't be bothered. I was talking to a guy who actually picked up a bottle of 2023 Middleton for £130 or something. Good on him. But all he said he's going to do is just stick it up in an attic. You're not really going to look at it until it's tripled in value and then sell it. So what's the point? There's no point in me worrying too much about it,
No.
Let's see. And Jordy Burks just popped out and says, "What's your opinion in the middle of the very rare offerings?" I have a couple of bottles open there. It's all right whiskey. It's nice-ish, but I certainly wouldn't be paying ridiculous money for it. What I will say, I was holding in my hands a bottle the other day of a single cask Middleton very rare. And I'll probably never get my hands on a bottle of certainly not that bottle again. It was a 27-year-old single cask, and I had bottle 001 in my hand. That'll not be for sale. But yeah, it's a 27-year-old Middleton, very rare. The collectors will just lost their shit over the head of that. But yeah, I mean, all of this stuff is just, I mean, it's like Macallan. I finished off a bottle of Macallan there the other day, which if I was buying at auction now would be about £700 a bottle. It's just ridiculous. It's not £700 worth of whiskey in any way, shape, or form. And that's pretty much the same as Middleton, very rare. It's only really for collecting these days. Nobody really drinks it. If they do, it's a special occasion, then it's all right. It's nice enough. You don't. Nobody's ever going to say it's their favourite whiskey. It's all right.
There we go. The ubiquitous smooth. And we had this in Scotland. The whiskey equivalent of a bottle being corked, and people said, no, it isn't. And some people said, yes, it is. Mark Kerr saying, surely that taste that you're picking up infers a bad seal or an open bottle.
Well, no, not necessarily, because there is oxygen in there. And that plays its part, I think. And as the bottle gets opened, there's more oxygen goes in, and I think it probably reacts a bit quicker or something. But that earthy sort of rancio note that you pick up on, I think it's lovely. I really do. I think it's something that takes away from the things being overly sweet, pulls it down into a sort of nice richness that is just lovely. So it's really quite
good
nice.
stuff. Good stuff. There's Connor saying, the oldest bottle that I have is 37-year-old SPS single cask sample.
If you get a couple of bottles of that, Connor, I think you'd probably be doing all right. That'd be worth a few quid. I've had a couple of Middleton casks that are aged. Middleton do great stuff, but I just think the Middleton very rare. Just it's a bit. Can't really be bothered with it. I've sold all of my Middleton very rare, barring a couple of bottles that are just there for collection. And little investment bottles that at some point when I have to pay. There's a guy coming to fix a bit of my roof this week. We're probably going to have to sell. I'm going to have to steal something off Justin and sell it to pay him.
I know. Listen, if you stole some off me to pay it, they would find asbestos in your roof. That's what would happen.
That would be right enough. There's a couple of things I will point out.
Declan Boyle has said, now I found this, sometimes a bottle left open for a while tastes better.
Yes.
And we've done that by leaving the whiskey sitting out for 15 minutes.
100%. When it's open, a neck pour, first thing for a neck pour, never judge a whiskey on that. Leave it. The best example for me was Silky for that. The longer I left the bottle open, the better it seemed to get. I really didn't like it when I opened it, but the longer it sat open,
we did simplify old whiskey. Now it's a couple of years ago. Now I'm thinking Mark Kerr give us a
yes, a 50-year-old. 50-year-old whiskey's not going to get too many of them about, especially not the Irish. There's the 50-year-old Irish whiskey that will be coming in a couple of years' time. I don't even know what they're going to charge for that.
An arm and a leg. Listen, Peter Stewart says it's not that rare. It's not that rare. There's plenty bottled. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. That everybody's absolutely lost in it for the Middleton 2023. I don't know whether everybody knows that there's another release of it coming later on in the year, in the autumn. I think it's August, September time. They're releasing another 20,000 bottles or whatever, and everybody will be going, lost their. I talked to some guy the other day, and he says, "Oh, I finally got the 6 bottles of it that I wanted." Sure, I couldn't be bothered. It's just not something I'd ever be bothered with. One thing I will say is be careful with these old corks. They dry
Ah,
out. They can dry out. So this one, I tried it the other night. When you open it up, the cork just broke. Couldn't get it out. I basically had to poke it in, filter it, and there's still a little bit of cork floating about in it. Try and keep your cork wet at some point. Just keep it.
do that every so often.
Yeah, just every so often. You just have to. Obviously, I forgot about that, but it's something you have to do. But these balls, you can pick these up for very, very little money, guys, and they're well worth checking out. But that age, those notes. I have this 28-year-old single grain whiskey. I'm becoming much more of a fan of single grain whiskies, especially at a certain age. Once it gets above a certain age, above like 20-year plus, it's really good and really affordable too, mostly. I had a single grain last night. I was over with a friend, and he poured me out a single grain that he got from Master Malt. And I can't remember the exact age, but very tasty, very, very tasty, and very reasonably priced as well. That bottle, 28-year-old Cadenheads, that was about £110 for that bottle. Well worth picking yourself up a touch of that. It's really, really good. Connor, you'll enjoy that. You really will. Really pleasant to drink, and that's what I say. Single grain whiskey is a bit of a bad rap, but once it gets to a certain age, it takes on all these notes that really sort of help it and work with it and bring it down a bit, down in kind of in body, and it brings it down and gives it those earthy notes, and that is the difference between a young whiskey that's lively and kicking about, and you sort of think yourself that needs settled a little bit, versus something with a bit of age and just pulls it in, rounds it out.
There's James Doherty's on. He's agreeing with you. Old grain, especially maize based, are delightful. Old Girvan, especially.
I wouldn't know too much about Old Girvan, but I know that lots of that old grain whiskey. Really, I mean, you can pick some of these old silent distillery, that canvas and stuff. I mean, it's not that particularly expensive, and it's super. It's really, really well worth picking up a bottle, you know. Yeah, I have Loch Ree Bethlehem up there. I've a cask strength one that I haven't opened, sitting there, and they're really, really good. I'll tell you what the Loch Ree goes really well with. I tried this a couple of weeks ago. The Loch Ree Bethlehem goes fantastically well with pears. If you're eating a pear, try the Loch Ree Bethlehem with a pear, and I promise you, it's superb, superb. It works really well. Lovely, juicy, just boom, boom, just pops out.
Sorry, I was going to corpse there. I was going to corpse.
Oh, you thinking about food?
No. I was Sydney James talking about a pear rather there, but anyway, because I was about to ask people about, is the connection stable tonight? Because I've got the special discretion required triangle in the top of the screen saying connection is unstable the whole night tonight. That's why I've been sitting here panicking, but it's been crystal clear, hasn't it? Yeah.
Well, it seems to be.
Nobody's complained tonight.
Now, tell you another thing that I've wanted to do, because I bought this at an auction a few months ago, and I thought to myself, this will be kind of in the same ballpark with this, because I wanted to see if it's just whiskey or is it something else. And I bought this. Okay, it's a bottle of Celebration Cognac from 1982. I paid like £25 for this. Okay, I mean, it's not expensive. At the whiskey auctions, there's loads of this kind of stuff floating about, and you sit and go, yeah, might as well try it. I haven't actually opened this. There we go. I'll give that a wee word. Because, well, cognac, slightly different spirit, but it's different spirit, but it's done pretty much the same way. And there you go. You're getting those earthy notes. That's actually slightly vinegary on the nose. Just been owned, but you're getting that aged note. And it's not that it's been aged that long in the cask, it's that it's been aged in in the bottle. And I do think that does add something to it, and it's in a good way. Nothing major. I mean that's really quite pleasant. And there you go. That's there. There's that earthiness again. Now, if that can't be coming from the difference in degree, because there's a certain part of me that thinks that if you're using a different species of barley than you were 20, 40, 50 years ago, if you were doing this over here, then this is what makes the difference. These are spirits from a certain time period. Actually, that finish on that's really, really good. That's really, really, really nice. But what I'm saying is these notes that you're getting really are only coming from the age in the bottle. That's what I'm beginning to think. I think that in the bottle it does change and it does improve. Probably up to a certain point. I would need to be trying whiskies from 100 years old whiskies to maybe see whether it goes past that. But I do think there is definitely something there.
Tell me this and tell me no more, right? If something like that only garners 25 quid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you sell it? Why would you not crack that open yourself and have a go at it and toast your relative that's left you, or your friend that's left you, or toast your discovery in your old shed or something?
Yeah.
Why would you not?
I don't know. But honestly, you see, if you look on the bottom end of these auctions, there's loads of little stuff to be picked up and had a look through and so on and so forth. I mean, I've picked up some. I mean, to be fair, the Waterford stuff, well, you can pick up for about 30 quid a bottle now. But yeah, to all of this little experimentation stuff that you can pick up, it's really well worth doing. And I'm beginning to find that that note from those bygone bottles, it's not necessarily that they were better produced back then or they were better made or slightly different. I think it's genuinely the fact that it's sat in the bottle is adding something to this.
That is a good point. You're assuming that people know what they're selling, but they're bound to have looked. If they put something up, they're not putting it up thinking it's going to be 2,500. They're only putting up and making 20 quid, 15 quid after, fees and all the rest of it, or whatever it is. But why would you sell that? I mean, who needs 20 quid that badly to sell something like that? I mean, I'm not a fan of cognac, but if I had a bottle like that, I'd just drink it.
Not the past whiskey auctioneer auction, the one before that, I think I bought 5 bottles of whiskey for £110. Of varying levels.
Yes, there are some people who don't drink. They maybe had too much a problem with it or something like that, or it's not a taste for them or something like that. I do understand that.
Yeah.
But you would give it to a friend that did drink. If I found something that I really didn't like, I'll give it to you. Give it to you.
Oh, where did you get that? Where did you get that?
You'll be coming and looking at my wine cellar in Chateau Lafitte. I went looking for it the other day, and somebody's drunk it. My uncle gave it to my mother for her birthday or for some reason, I don't know, and it's not there.
Just in Chateau Lafitte. Chateau Lafitte.
Whatever it's called, it's good. But anyway, I have 2. What is this? We better go. Thomas Jones, I have 2 bottles of 7-year-old grain whiskey from Waterford Distillery. Clearing out old relatives' houses a gold mine. Yes, I especially like it when you find debentures. Yes, that's the best thing.
The thing about it is all of these. There's a couple of different ways of gauging age, and one is obviously the age in the cask, but the other one worth checking out and getting yourselves a couple of these older bottles is the age in the bottle. And I think you might be surprised. You might be surprised at just how big an effect that is.
Yeah, there you go. Great show again tonight, Marty. There you go.
as I
Old
say,
and
guys,
new.
bit of an experiment, old and new stuff. Age maybe isn't just about being in the cask.
Yeah, great stuff. Catch again, same time, same place next week, 10 p.m. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Telegram, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, DLive. I've forgotten the other things. The Instagram thing came up again this week, and I tried to do Instagram Live again because we used to be able to. We can't, but can't get it to work. I will eventually get it to work. It's getting around these things. What we'll do is we'll end up getting around the things, and then AI will come along, and we won't even have to present the show. We'll just say, do a fake show about whiskey, and we'll be able to do it.
That's what my son done for his application. He was planning to go to some university, see what they got, and he says to me, he says, "What do you think of that, Dad?" I says, "I don't know." He says, "I never wrote a word of it. Just asked ChatGPT to do it." I could replace you with a computer, Justin. I could replace Justin. Yeah.
Yes, thank God. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. Right, everybody. Thanks
Night,
for all
night,
the good
guys.
wishes.
Take care.
Yeah, thanks again. Night,
Stay
night,
safe,
night.
all
Great
right?
show as always. Bye, 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 bye. Lovely stuff. See you again next week. There, everybody saying hello.